There are moments in life when you find yourself standing at a crossroads, faced with choices you never thought you'd have to make. Sometimes those choices creep up on you slowly, so gradually that you don't realize you're at the brink until it's too late. I never imagined my life would spiral into such chaos, but it all started with one innocent visit. My name is Anna, and I've been married to my husband Mark for 8 years. We have a good life, a beautiful home, 2 kids, and a routine that feels comfortable. But comfort can be deceptive, and sometimes it takes just one spark to set everything ablaze. It all began when Mark's cousin Alex came to stay with us. Alex had always been the fun, carefree one in the family, the one with the infectious laugh and a million stories about his adventures. He'd been traveling for work, bouncing between cities, and when he landed a job in our town, it seemed only natural for him to stay with us until he found a place of his own. I was happy to have him. I'd always liked Alex. He was like the cool older brother I never had. But looking back, I should have seen the signs. I should have noticed how his presence disrupted the delicate balance of our home. From the moment Alex walked through the door, the atmosphere changed. He brought an energy with him, a sense of spontaneity that clashed with the predictability of our everyday lives. He was charming, effortlessly so, and I found myself drawn to him in ways I couldn't quite explain. At first, it was just fun. We'd sit up late after Mark went to bed, talking and laughing about nothing and everything. It felt good to have someone to talk to. Someone who seemed genuinely interested in me, not just as Mark's wife or the kid's mom, but as Anna, a person with her own thoughts and feelings. But as the days went by, I started to notice a shift. Alex's glances lingered a little too long, his touches a little too familiar. It was subtle, the kind of thing you might dismiss as nothing if you weren't paying attention. But I was paying attention. I couldn't help it. There was a charge in the air whenever he was around, a tension that I didn't know how to handle. I told myself it was just a harmless crush, a fleeting attraction that would pass as quickly as it came. But deep down, I knew better. One evening, after the kids were in bed and Mark was out late for work, Alex and I sat on the porch, sipping wine and watching the sun dip below the horizon. The conversation was light, easy, but there was an undercurrent that neither of us could ignore. He asked me about my life, about my dreams, questions that felt too intimate, too personal. I found myself opening up to him in a way I hadn't done with Mark in years. It was as if Alex saw a part of me that had been buried, forgotten under the weight of marriage and motherhood. "You know, Anna," Alex said, his voice soft, "I've always admired you. You've got this strength about you, this spark. It's really something." His words caught me off guard, and I felt a warmth spread through me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. I smiled, trying to play it off, but the way he looked at me, like I was the only person in the world, made it hard to breathe. "Thanks, Alex," I said, my voice wavering. "That's really sweet of you." I tried to change the subject, to steer the conversation back to safer territory, but he wouldn't let it go. "I'm serious," he continued, leaning closer. "You're amazing, Anna. I've been staying here, watching you juggle everything, work, the kids, the house, and you make it look effortless. I don't know how you do it." I laughed, a nervous sound that betrayed the turmoil I was feeling inside. "Trust me, it's not effortless. It's just life, I guess." "No," he said, his eyes locked onto mine. "It's more than that. You're more than that." His hand brushed against mine, and I felt a jolt of electricity shoot through me. It was such a small gesture, but it sent my heart racing. I knew I should pull away, make some excuse and go inside, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, caught between the life I knew and the lure of something new and exciting. In that moment, I realized that the line between right and wrong wasn't as clear as I'd always thought. It was blurred, shifting beneath my feet, and I was standing on the edge, staring down into an abyss that both terrified and thrilled me. I pulled my hand away, the spell breaking, and stood up abruptly. "I should go check on the kids," I said, my voice unsteady. Alex nodded, his expression unreadable, and I hurried inside, my heart pounding in my chest. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. My mind kept replaying the events of the evening, the look in Alex's eyes, the way my body had reacted to his touch. I knew I couldn't let this go any further, that I had to set boundaries before things got out of control. But the truth was, a part of me didn't want to. A part of me craved the attention, the validation, the thrill of feeling wanted in a way that I hadn't felt in years. Over the next few days, I tried to keep my distance, to focus on my family and push Alex to the back of my mind. But it was impossible. He was always there, always watching, always waiting, and I couldn't help but respond. It was like we were caught in a dance, moving closer and closer with every step, even though we both knew the risks. One afternoon, while Mark was at work and the kids were at school, Alex found me in the kitchen. I was washing dishes, trying to keep busy, but I could feel his presence behind me before he even spoke. "Anna," he said, his voice low. I turned around and he was standing so close that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. My breath caught in my throat, and I took a step back, trying to put some distance between us. "What is it, Alex?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, closing the gap I'd just created. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said, his eyes searching mine. "I know this is wrong, but I can't help it. I don't want to help it." I shook my head, backing up until I was pressed against the counter. "We can't do this, Alex. This isn't right." He reached out, his hand grazing my arm, and I felt a shiver run through me. "I know you feel it too, Anna. This connection, it's real." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that I didn't feel anything, but the words wouldn't come. Because the truth was, I did feel it. Every time he was near, every time he looked at me, I felt it. And it scared me. "Alex, please," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You're Mark's cousin. We can't do this to him." He stepped even closer, his face inches from mine. "I don't want to hurt Mark, but I can't pretend that this isn't happening." I closed my eyes, trying to block out the reality of the situation, but his touch, his presence, was overwhelming. I felt his hand on my cheek, gentle but insistent, and I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze. For a moment, we stood there, frozen in time, and I knew that whatever happened next would change everything. Without thinking, I leaned in, our lips meeting in a kiss that was soft at first, tentative, as if testing the waters. But then it deepened, fueled by all the emotions we'd been holding back. It was like a dam breaking, all the tension and desire flooding out in a rush that left me breathless. When we finally pulled away, we were both gasping for air, our foreheads pressed together. "What are we doing?" I whispered, my voice cracking with emotion. "I don't know," Alex said, his breath warm against my skin, "but I don't want to stop." I pulled back, reality crashing down around me. "We have to stop, Alex. This isn't fair to anyone." He nodded, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. "You're right. I'm sorry, Anna. I got caught up in the moment." I stepped away, putting distance between us. "It's okay. We need to be careful. For Mark's sake. For everyone's sake." Alex agreed, and we spent the rest of the day avoiding each other, each lost in our own thoughts. But the damage was already done. That kiss, that moment, had opened a door that couldn't be closed. It was like a secret that hung between us, a constant reminder of the line we'd crossed. Days turned into weeks, and Alex and I continued to dance around each other, pretending that nothing had changed. But it had. Every time I saw him, every time our eyes met, I felt the pull, the temptation to let go and give in, and it was getting harder and harder to resist. One evening, Mark suggested we all go out for dinner, a rare treat given our busy schedules. I agreed, hoping that a night out would help clear my head, help me remember what was important. But as we sat at the restaurant, laughing and talking, I couldn't shake the feeling of Alex's eyes on me. It was like he was silently challenging me, daring me to acknowledge what we both knew was there. At one point, Mark got up to use the restroom, leaving Alex and me alone at the table. The silence between us was thick, charged with unspoken words. I stared down at my drink, avoiding his gaze, but I could feel his presence like a weight pressing down on me. "You look beautiful tonight," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. I glanced up, meeting his eyes, and felt my resolve waver. "Thank you," I replied, my voice tight. "But we shouldn't do this. Not here, not now." "I know," he said, his gaze never leaving mine. "But I can't help it, Anna. I can't stop thinking about that night." I swallowed hard, the memory of our kiss flooding back. "We have to let it go, Alex. It was a mistake." "Was it?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "Because it didn't feel like a mistake to me." Before I could respond, Mark returned, oblivious to the tension between us. He sat down, resuming the conversation as if nothing had happened, and I forced myself to smile, to play the part of the dutiful wife. But inside I was torn between the life I'd built with Mark and the pull of something new, something dangerous. That night, as we lay in bed, Mark reached for me, his touch gentle and familiar. But as he held me, my mind was elsewhere, lost in thoughts of Alex and the kiss we'd shared. I felt a pang of guilt, a sense of betrayal that cut deep. I knew I had to make a choice, to either end things with Alex once and for all or risk losing everything I held dear. The next morning, I found Alex in the living room packing his bags. He looked up as I entered, his expression unreadable. "I'm leaving," he said, his voice flat. "I found an apartment." I nodded, my heart sinking. "That's probably for the best." He hesitated, then set down his bag and walked over to me. "Anna, I don't want to make things harder for you. I care about you, but I can't stay here and pretend like nothing happened." "I know," I said, my voice breaking. "But you're right, we need to move on." He reached out, brushing a tear from my cheek. "Take care of yourself, okay? You deserve to be happy." I nodded, unable to speak. We stood there for a moment, the weight of our unspoken feelings hanging between us. Then, without another word, Alex picked up his bag and walked out the door, leaving me alone with my thoughts. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my family, trying to repair the cracks that had formed in my marriage. Mark never suspected a thing, and I was determined to keep it that way. But every now and then, I'd catch myself thinking about Alex, wondering what might have been if things had been different. I realized that life is full of choices, and sometimes the hardest ones are the ones we make in the quiet moments when no one else is watching. I'd come dangerously close to losing everything, but in the end, I'd found my way back. I'd chosen my family, my husband, and the life we'd built together. And in the end, that made all the difference. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that the heart can be a tricky thing. It can lead you down paths you never expected, tempt you with things that seem so perfect in the moment, but can have devastating consequences. But it's important to stay true to yourself, to remember what's truly valuable and worth fighting for. For me, that was my family. It was a lesson learned the hard way, but one that I won't soon forget. And as I move forward, I do so with a renewed sense of purpose, grateful for the life I have, and the people who make it worth living.